Few subjects in biblical scholarship ignite more debate than the ethnic origins of the ancient Hebrews. For centuries, Western religious art and academia have presented the Israelites through a distinctly European lens. But now, a group of Iranian researchers has put forward a striking claim that could change everything we thought we knew. They argue the original biblical Israelites were an Afro-Asiatic people with deep African roots. If true, this revelation could reshape how we understand the Bible, ancient history, and the identity of God's chosen people. What evidence do they offer? And why has this been overlooked for so long? Stay with me, the answers will challenge you. What makes this claim especially compelling is its source. Iranian scholars have no vested interest in affirming African heritage. Yet they have drawn from ancient Persian texts, archaeological findings, genetic studies, and linguistic analysis to build their case. To understand their argument, we must first return to the ancient world. Israel sat at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East. To the south lay Egypt and Kush, present-day Sudan, powerful African civilizations that shaped the entire region. The Iranian scholars argue that in the ancient world, racial and ethnic boundaries were far more fluid than modern categories suggest. The Hebrews, they contend, were not an isolated Semitic group but a people deeply intertwined with African civilizations. These researchers point to ancient Persian texts as key evidence. Iran, historically known as Persia, played a central role in biblical history. Persian rulers like Cyrus the Great, Darius, and Artaxerxes interacted extensively with the Israelites during and after the Babylonian exile. Ancient inscriptions from Persepolis document Persian interactions with Semitic groups, including the Israelites. Some Persian records refer to the Israelites as descendants of the dark southern lands, reinforcing an African connection. Persian chroniclers distinguished the Israelites from other Levantine peoples, linking them more closely to Egypt, Kush, and Africa. But the evidence extends far beyond Persian texts. Iranian scholars highlight remarkable cultural parallels between Hebrews and African civilizations. Early Israelite religious practices, ritual purification, dietary laws, and sacred offerings closely resemble traditions of the Nile Valley. The use of drums, dance, and oral tradition in Israelite worship mirrors practices common throughout African religions. These are not superficial similarities. They point to deep, shared cultural roots stretching back millennia. Hold on to that thought, because the linguistic evidence takes this even further. Iranian scholars examined Hebrew's roots within the Afro-Asiatic language family, which includes ancient Egyptian and Cushitic languages. Some analyses reveal structural and phonetic similarities between Hebrew and African languages that challenge long-held assumptions. This evidence suggests the Israelites were not a purely Semitic group, separate from Africa, as traditionally believed. If this is already reshaping how you see biblical history, subscribe to our channel now. The most powerful evidence is still ahead. The Bible itself contains descriptions suggesting African features among the Israelites. In the Psalm of Solomon, chapter 1 verse 5, the speaker declares words acknowledging dark skin and beauty. This verse has long been interpreted as indicating dark-skinned Israelites within the biblical narrative. Key figures reinforce this connection. Moses married a Cushite woman, as recorded in Numbers chapter 12 verse 1. Since Cush was located in present-day Sudan, this marriage suggests an intimate link between the Israelites and Africa. Solomon's interactions with the Queen of Sheba further tie Israel's royal lineage to African kingdoms. Archaeological findings provide yet another layer of evidence supporting the Iranian scholars' claims. Excavations across Israel, Egypt, and surrounding regions have uncovered artwork and pottery depicting people with African features. These artifacts challenge traditional Western depictions of the Israelites and have been systematically overlooked. Remember this detail, it becomes crucial in a moment. Genetic studies add modern scientific weight to these ancient claims. Research on ancient human remains in Israel indicates significant African ancestry among early Semitic peoples. Studies of the Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews, reveal genetic links to ancient Israelite tribes. The Limba people of southern Africa also carry genetic markers connecting them to ancient Israel. Even West African communities like the Yoruba and Igbo carry oral traditions claiming descent from the ancient Israelites. These oral traditions are supported by similarities in language, religious customs, and social structures. But here is where it gets truly remarkable. Many West African tribes observe laws strikingly similar to the Hebrew Bible. Laws of ritual purity, food restrictions, and sacred offering traditions mirror ancient Israelite practice. Burial customs in Ethiopia and Sudan resemble those of the ancient Hebrews. Iranian scholars argue these parallels are evidence of ancient Israelite migration and settlement across the African continent. This suggests a diaspora far older and more widespread than commonly acknowledged in mainstream scholarship. We are now approaching the heart of this entire investigation. Why does this claim matter so profoundly? Asterisk. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel to support this important work. You will not want to miss what comes next. The assertion that the original Hebrews had strong African roots carries implications far beyond academic debate. For centuries, Western institutions depicted figures like Moses, David, and Jesus as European in appearance. If ancient Israel was Afro-Asiatic, this fundamentally challenges religious, art, and historical narratives shaped over centuries. Iranian scholars argue these Eurocentric depictions were influenced by racial and political agendas during the Renaissance and colonial eras. European artists reimagined biblical figures to mirror their own identities, and religious institutions adopted these images as truth. This revisionism, the researchers contend, erased the African heritage of the biblical world. The implications for religious communities are deeply personal. Many of African descent feel alienated from their spiritual heritage. If the Israelites were of African descent, the foundational stories of the Bible were rooted in African and Afro-Asiatic cultures. The Exodus, the Kingdom of David, the Wisdom of Solomon, all emerging from an African context. This revelation would require religious institutions worldwide to acknowledge historical realities suppressed for centuries. This claim also reshapes Jewish identity. While Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Mizrahi communities are well known, Black Jewish communities have been marginalized. If the original Israelites were African, it demands a major reassessment of Jewish history and identity. The theological implications reach across Christianity, Judaism, and Islam alike. Western-centric interpretations of Scripture have often overlooked the African context entirely for centuries. If these claims gain acceptance, scholars and religious leaders may need to reassess long-held assumptions about the biblical world. We are approaching the most profound conclusion of this investigation. If you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. The critical question is whether mainstream religious institutions will engage with this evidence or suppress it. Will Western scholars examine these findings objectively or continue to prioritize Eurocentric interpretations? Asterisk. Iranian scholars argue that acknowledging the Afro-Asiatic identity of the Hebrews requires dismantling long-standing racial narratives. Their work draws from Persian sources, biblical texts, linguistics, archaeology, and genetics, a powerful multidisciplinary case. This research underscores the importance of examining historical narratives and the deep connections between Africa and the biblical world. If the original Hebrews were of African descent, our understanding of ancient history must be reevaluated honestly. The narrative shaping religious identity for centuries must be examined with open hearts and open minds. Perhaps the most powerful lesson is this: God chose a people not for their appearance, but for their faith. The story of the Israelites is ultimately about covenant, obedience, and the enduring faithfulness of the Creator. Thank you for staying with us through this incredible biblical investigation. If this content moved you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories from Scripture and history.